We think, therefore we are. We are, therefore we do. We do, therefore we invent. And oh, we invent. Right from the beginning, we've been inventing for the basics, for the revolutionary, for the thing of beauty and wonder, to constantly recreate and reimagine the world we live in. And those inventions, they've made the world easier, richer, more fulfilling, more right for everybody. And each of them began just as a thought, a moment of, what if? Followed by a determined, why not? In that moment, an inventor is born. And the key to their success lies in the unusual idea they don't dismiss. It lies in their courage to challenge the status quo. It lies in the way they blend science, process, creativity, and hard work. It lies in their foresight that what I do today will have a lasting impact on the world. It lies in that magical moment when their idea stops being radical and becomes commonplace, difficult to live without, normal. And with that idea, they changed the world into what they imagined it could be. At TCS Research, we seek out and nurture these thinkers and doers. We aspire to create those life-changing, business-changing, humanity-changing inventions. With scientists and researchers and experts from across industries and disciplines, we collaborate to make people healthier, to provide clean energy, to make the digital world safer so that from different corners of the world, more inventors can have their moment of, what if? Why not? We invent for today, for tomorrow, and for the tomorrow after that, to create the future that's ours to shape, to make an impact on everything there is and on everything yet to come.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are. Today, we gather here for yet another exciting webinar organized by TCS Research and ACM India Council. And the topic of today's webinar is the future of AI-powered point of care. So it looks at two interesting areas. One is artificial intelligence, which has proliferated our life like anything. And the other is healthcare, which we deal with day in and day out. So we have a set of eminent speakers and panelists with whom we will try to paint a picture of the future in the next 1.5 hours. With this, I would first like to call on Dr. Chitra Babu, and she will be talking about ACM India Council, which is a co-organizer of this event, and its activities and initiatives regarding the advancement of computer science. So,
thank you, Avik. Let me share my screen now. Good morning, good evening to all of you, and welcome to the 11th edition of the quarterly webinar series jointly organized by TCS Research and ACM India Council. This joint webinar series started in December 2021 and has been successfully running for the past 3 years. Today, you get to listen to some of the most eminent technologists and researchers who share their valuable insights on how AI can impact the healthcare sector significantly. Let me take a couple of minutes now to brief you about ACM India. Simply said, ACM's mission is to promote computing as a science and profession. You can see ACM India at a glance on this slide, but let me give you some examples of what being associated with ACM means. You will be part of the world's largest computing society. ACM India is spread across the country through its members and chapters. You can access ACM's resources as an individual or as a chapter. In terms of promoting research, ACM India has taken initiatives such as PhD Clinic, where the PhD scholars get an opportunity to discuss their research work with faculty and industry researchers. Anvention Setu, where the PhD scholars get to spend a couple of weeks with a researcher of their choice at their campus to get an immersive research experience. Research opportunities in computer science. ROCKS is an initiative where multiple researchers visit an educational institution for a day to interact with the undergraduate students to spread the excitement of research. Among the multiple education initiatives of ACM India, Summer and winter schools on emerging topics have proven to be highly beneficial to students. Teaching Partnership Program is an initiative where experienced teachers co-teach various core subjects with the local teachers to improve the pedagogy and assessment. ACM India works with the whole spectrum of institutions in the education sphere, from policy-making bodies such as AICTE to schools at grassroots level to increase the quality of computing education. When it comes to the many resources for individual professional development, you may have come across the Eminent Speaker Program, ACM India webinars, mini graphs, boot camps, and Pingala interactions in computing that started from last year in DAX tool format. To acknowledge and provide visibility to outstanding contributions from India, ACM India has instituted reputed awards in various categories, such as Early Career Researcher Award and Best Performing Chapter Awards. The special interest groups in India organize prestigious national level conferences such as COTS-COMAT, ISEC, and Compute. ACM India annual event is the flagship event which is organized at different locations every year with co-located events such as Academic Research and Careers Symposium and ACMW Annual Summit. Inclusion and equity plays an integral part of all our activities leading to diversity in the representation, whether it is on gender, geography, educational institutions, or career paths. In particular, ACMW India focuses on empowerment and advancement of women in computing with its own activities such as grad cohort, programming contests, and hackathons meant exclusively for women. Hope I have been able to give you a glimpse of what ACM India stands for. I strongly encourage those who are not ACM members yet to become members soon and start contributing to the community. I'm sure you will enjoy today's session and find a lot of takeaways. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.
You're mute, Abhi.
Thank you, Dr. Chitrababu. Sorry, I was talking on mute. For the brief overview on ACM and its India activities. With this, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Avijit Das, who is a computer consultant neurologist at the University of Lancashire, and he's also an eminent researcher in this field with over 2 decades of experience and multiple publications and patents. And he's also working as an honorary associate professor at the university. So with that, I would hand over to Dr. Avijit Das for the keynote. Thank you.
Thank you, Avik. Thank you for the great introduction. So let me start sharing my screen. Hope my screen is visible and I'm audible to everyone.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Avik, and thank you to TCS Research and the ACM India Council for this great honor. I'm really honored to speak in this event. And it is really exciting. What we're going into our field in future is going to change the way we are doing things. But let us look at the other caveats and other things. So first, disclosure, there is no financial interest, but I'm a keen user of AI tools in stroke management, one of our job. And I'm a regular user of ChatGPT, ResearchRabbit, and TurboScribe, among other AI tools in my everyday activity. I have past experience developing chatbots in collaboration with TCS in the past, and currently involved in a research project in developing a digital companion for a group of neurology patients. My other thing is that I'm not expert in lab technology or materials, where another field where this AI and point of care technology is evolving rapidly. My expertise is not in that. That's another huge field. So my focus in this presentation will be mainly on the clinical application, which I'm more aware about. So first to start, this is a presentation for myself and clinicians like me. What is AI? So AI is a computer which tries to solve a task in a way that mimics human behavior. and these are the big group. And among the many things is the machine learning, where the algorithms that allow computers to learn from examples without being explicitly programmed. So they will learn of their own, even the examples without programming. And in subset of that is the deep learning, where there are biologically inspired neural networks. Now this will be changed possibly in the soon, where it will be quantum computers coming. That definition is going to change soon. So currently we are having biologically inspired neural networks that do not require predetermined input. They will learn themselves and apply it themselves, like the ANN, the CNN, the convolutional neural network, and everything. So in the whole picture of AI, the entire group is this core three or four things, as we know. The machine learning tool, one hand are the classification and the regression, where we have supervised learning, and there is a clustering or unsupervised learning, and they come together with reinforcement learning, where they make the decision, and this forms the core our current understanding how artificial intelligence works. And the examples are many. So we have machine learning group, we have robotics group, rule-based AI and decision trees, speech and text vision, and the examples are everywhere. We have Netflix recommendation, automated call centers, Apple Siri, and Amazon's Alexa is currently ubiquitous, and autonomous self-driving vehicles, which including Tesla and a lot of other vehicles coming. And now there's a explosion of chatbots, depending on Chat GPT, Gemini, whatever you use, and Asana is being widely used in all project management everywhere. So AI is surrounding us everywhere. Now, just to give a brief outlook, why this is so important, why we are standing at the threshold of a technological evolution. If you look back, the major technological evolution started back in 1765, when the first industrial revolution happened with the steam engine. It allowed us to overcome the barrier of human performance. The first time in the world, we overcome the barrier of a human and animal performance, and we magnified our capabilities almost thousandfold. Then the second 1870 came, the second industrial revolution, when the electricity came. It again magnified, opened up new fields, spawned new technologies and everything. And then the third industrial revolution came in 1969. The other thing came simultaneously and the same time was biotechnology. It is often considered bit a separate kind of a industrial revolution 3A, where it allowed harness the power of genetic engineering and other thing to develop the biotechnology, so-called industrial revolution 3A. And now possibly we're in the fourth industrial revolution, where the AI is coming. This is because we have to understand AI is a group of general purpose technology. It is applicable everywhere. It crosses boundaries and creates and emerges new fields of technology that never existed in the past. So Sam Altman was right to choose his Chat GPT from GPT, the general purpose technology. So it's the chat bot for general purpose technology. So you can see AI going to change everything that we do, from tourism, software, mining, education, medical, legal, finance, everything. It has already started doing it, and we are seeing the results. So for the purpose of the talk today, we'll focus on what the types of AI are. So the main thing is that we know so far, AI can be coming in various flavors. First is the narrow AI designed to complete very specific actions, but unable to independently learn, like image analysis, self-driving cars, or AI virtual assistants. They cannot learn themselves. They have been developed and they can do only particular tasks. Then there are artificial general intelligence, where the AI tool is designed to learn, think, and perform at similar level to the human, like generative AI models like ChatGPT. Then there is a reactive machine AI, like AI capable of responding to external stimuli in real time, but unable to build any memory for the future. Then there are limited memory AI, like chatbots or virtual assistants. And in the future, possibly we're seeing some more AI, like the theory of mind AI, that can sense and respond to human emotions, plus perform tasks of everyday machines, and self-aware AI that recognize others' emotions, plus has self and human level intelligence. And then we will have artificial superintelligence. Whether we need to do that is a big area of ethical debate and concern, or should we go to that route to our own doom or something? It is open for open discussion on some area of very active discussion in the AI community. So we'll limit ourselves to these four groups of AI that we currently have, and they will dictate how we go about our medical technology. And the future is huge. As you already know, it is currently around 250 billion market share, and it is going to cross 1 trillion by 2030, but possibly it will be more than that. This is a current estimate. But as like in any other emerging technology, they may break down all the barriers and do much, much more. And why it is happening so? Two things. First, there's a massive data storage. Now, data storage has become cheap. We can store data. Another thing is the advancement of GPUs. Like the same GPU, as in Apple has joined the game, they can do some teraflop event in my own laptop. It's unimaginable. And there's recently a YouTube video become viral with 4 Mac Studio. Someone built a supercomputer. It was unimaginable in the future, and this is going to come. Possibly in our home, if we know enough, we can have our own, can run our own AI system, which will, I think, will go into the future. Everyone will have their own access to their own AI system. So with this, now coming to the final stage, what is point of care? This is another big area we need to define first, and this is mainly for the engineers. For us, it is very simple. So the point of care where the patients are tested and treated at the point where we are giving the care, and it depends. It can be hospital bedside. So patient is the hospital, but there can be a point of care. It is not hospital technology. In the pharmacies, in the community centers, in their own homes, where we provide a workable healthcare solution. So it is a solution. It can be anything, monitoring something, documenting something, anything. It is a solution. So it is a different thing from other definition. And the main characteristics are it should be handheld, disposable, portable, transportable, can be benchtop or used for monitoring, and the currently devices can be part of the smart devices. So if you look carefully, everything is converging. In evolution, things converge. So everything is converging to our everyone's pocket supercomputer everyone have on our mobile phone. So everything is now converging to our mobile phone with the target. Everything will be coming there. Now it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists in a continuum where from the home and hospital, they are a chain of technologies. So for example, this is one example given in one of the earlier article on this, like someone is testing HIV at their home. Then in the community, it can be blood taken by someone testing malaria, HIV, dengue. Then in the clinics, it can be some more technologies where some more tests can be done, and then some more technology at the pathology lab level, then the hospital level where you can have scans and everything. So you have to understand that this point of care technology doesn't exist in a vacuum, they exist in a continuum of technology. And when we are actually the end users, we use all the technologies simultaneously, overlapping manner. So this is one of my examples where I use AI at point of care is the stroke diagnosis. We are using a tool called Brainomics. And so this is someone patient picked up by ambulance, comes in, scan is done, and the scan is automatically interpreted. And at the same time, I am having access to the scan on my mobile just to show me where there is a big stroke or small stroke, whether we need to thrombolize or not, what are the degree and everything, while someone is far away or covering multiple stroke centers, a single doctor covering multiple stroke centers at night, or far away providing opinion, or on the way to the hospital, they can have access, they can decide. And even sometimes patients are transferred to the small center to big center. The big center doctors have already this information to them that this kind of patient is coming, they need to decide what they need to do. So this is one of the application of point of care technology. AI already has arrived in stroke, and we're using it daily. And it has shown to cut down the technology time from almost half, more than half the waiting period time. And it can show us this important, whether there is a block, the degree of infarct on this side, the degree of brain lost, and the areas of the brain affected, where we can decide whether this person needs or not. And it has went through all these steps before it can got validated. And this is the main thing. So voxelized feature extraction, machine learning, updated weights, new and also trained machine, and then voxelized detection. So it has already been done in stroke and neuroimaging based. Now, if you look around, you will already see there are already point of care technologies existing in everyone's home. It involves the blood pressure monitor, the glucose monitor, some kits, lab kits to diagnose it from pregnancy to COVID. I think it was in everyone's home recently. Pulse oximeter, it became a household item during the COVID times. And these are the new rings, Aura rings, monitor our sleep state, our stress and other thing. And these are wearable continuous glucose monitoring. Now, normal people are wearing to maintain their glucose during training and other thing. And this was a recent sensation, and the Consumer Expo show in 2025. This is called Omnia Mirror. You stand in the mirror, there are electrodes everywhere. It will scan your BMI and also your body fat content, your water content, and tell you what exercise you need to do. Then it will show up in the mirror too, so that you can follow the exercise. So this is where our consumer level technologies are going, and these are coming to be the future point of care. Now, what all of they're trying to do are get some biomarkers, what we call the holy grail of point of care. Biomarkers can be diagnostic, they can be your EEG or a hemoglobin or something else, can be prognostic, can tell how you're going, like a cancer biomarker, or whether you have a risk of diabetes or not. Predictive, what effective treatment is given, and intervention might have response, whether you're responding to the treatment or exercise program or your dietary plan. Susceptibility, are you at risk of something? Are you at risk of developing infection? So aura, this aura ring, which were people, it was able to predict, to tell people who are susceptible to certain group of infections. And I wear the aura ring, and often I can see if I go to get some colds or something, my body temperature shoots up even I before get the full temperature and other thing. Another surrogate marker, it will replace the patient report and supplement the existing measures. So these are the goals of biomarkers where the point of care devices are going. And this is kind of an extreme example. I hope you know this person, the crazy millionaire Brian Johnson, who is trying to reverse his age. So he's wearing here in this picture one of the highest functional near-infrared spectroscopy device called Carnel. We also use this for our own high-tech research, and he's using a lot of other things. He's monitoring his 21 parameters daily and posting them online. If you go up the project blueprint, he posts all the biomarkers daily, almost daily, and see how they're going. So there are current guidelines. WHO published this work back in 2017, how to select a technology for point of care. So the main guideline is called assured. So it should be affordable, sensitive, specific to that condition, user-friendly. So if you look at all the technologies, they're very much user-friendly. If it is not user-friendly, it cannot be at point of care. It should be rapid and robust. So it should be quickly give you the result, at the same time the result should be highly validated. And there should be equipment less, kind of the lower the equipment level, the better it is, and deliverable to the end user. And the end user should be able to use it, be it at your home or someone. You do not need anyone coming and guiding to use that technology. And this is most important. So if someone thinking of developing a point of care technology, these are the guidelines. This is the article published long back, and they should follow this assured guideline how to evaluate the technology. I'll briefly, before we run out of time, briefly talk about the AI that is the future. So this was one of the landmark articles that came back in 2017 in Nature, where they used the CNN to convolutional neural network to train them on detecting images of skin cancer, and they showed it performed better than the dermatologist, almost equal, or in some cases better. In few cases there is a variability, but almost as equal as 21 dermatologists, and that after the image training, they did better. And there was another landmark study also came in same time from an Indian company actually called Cure AI. They are on it now for many years, and they're pioneer in this neuroimaging, the radiological imaging analysis. They published back in 2018 where their ChecksNet, it is available in archive, the radiologist level pneumonia detection with deep learning. They could detect pneumonia here at the radiology level. And now done better. This year, last year actually, 2024, they've shown their own data where they could predict a lung nodule from the CT scan and X-ray 3 years before the actual diagnosis. So if you look carefully, I have changed my symbol where the AI is better than human. This is because of this. This article just published a few days back where they're using the simple technology ECG existing for more than 100 years now to detect not only one state, or many states. They call them FICODEs. So there's a phenomenon coding system called FICODEs. They can be identified by simple ECG because they're analyzing the ECG data that beyond, we humans use ECG, cardiologists and everyone, as a visual signal. But in ECG, there are other latent variables which are unknown, or humans cannot detect. They can only detectable through machine learning, multiple matching and everything. Only then we can analyze them and detect them as this phenotypic coding or FICODE. This is a landmark paper. And this is how the future is going. So we will be using our own technologies, say body temperature variation or something other, and there are latent spaces. There are information in those compressed within these domains, which we have yet to detect. AI will help us to detect those information. And this is where the main direction will be going now. But there are perils and pitfalls. The first thing is data. Garbage in, garbage out. I think you all know that. So high quality, clean data is essential for training reliable models. And one thing is always, where everything fails, is the real world variability. The simple thing, like a patient movement, can destroy your data. If your system is not ready to handle that amount of variability, it will not work. So it must be managed through robust data cleaning and standardization protocol. This is where most technology fail, because the real world is messy, real world is variable. The other thing is important is bias and representation. And this is very, very important in AI, because again, the data you are training on is responsible for the decision you will make. So this came in light during COVID pandemic, where our simple our pulse oximeter in dark-skinned people, actually they were showing the oxygen levels spuriously high, and some people claim that this was one of the main cause of death in dark-skinned people compared to the light-skinned people, because pulse oximeter readings were spuriously high and they were not given oxygen at that time. Same thing got highlighted because when the face mask and respiratory protective gears were manufactured, and they were measured based on Caucasian males. So for the women and people from the colored background, they were not enough fitting, and putting them at the harm's way. Same thing happened with the when they reviewed the publication from the previous publication. I've shown, they highlighted the fact the publicly available skin scan image data set were again from European data set. So they were not good for treating people from colored background. So these are the issues. Unless we address the issue of this bias of race, gender, and other issues inherent in the human society, especially of data training data set, AI is not going to be universally useful for everyone. But there are other challenges, like limited computational resources. Currently, the AI we learn, they need huge amount of memory and power. How you can fit in a small device, and it requires real-time processing requirements beyond the speed of cloud computing can do. And there is the interoperability with healthcare system. The healthcare system of the developed countries are highly protected, and how you can send the data outside and process it and bring it back, because it brings the question of data privacy and security, and there are regulatory compliances to deal with. And at the same time, there is a question of robustness and reliability. So all these things need to be addressed. The other important issue is the edge computing. So whether you have to balance on whether you are going to do it on the device versus cloud burst analytics, which is going to give the best outcome. Again, it is said on the case-to-case basis. The user interface, usability, algorithm adaptability, power consumption is another big issue, but these things, in my opinion, are solvable. The way the technology is progressing, what I have seen in the Apple Silicon, they have drastically reduced the power consumption in them. And the maintenance software updates and the cost constraints as the technology goes in. We've seen in the transistor, when the first transistor came out, when a single transistor used to cost $20 compared to a vacuum valve, $1. But within few years, it's just changed everything. And we all know the history. Then we become the Silicon Revolution. But the other thing is that there is a hype. How much is hype? How much is reality? So 2013, IBM Watson collaborated, MD Anderson Cancer Center, largest cancer center in the world in Texas, Houston. They collaborated with IBM Watson. IBM Watson was fresh from defeating and winning the quiz show. They partnered with it to develop the cutting edge cancer diagnostic tool, therapy tool, blah, blah, blah. And just within 5 years down the line, they ditched it, because they realized that treating cancer is more complex than winning a trivia game. IBM Watson is good at already what is known, but not good what is not known, that we already know. So it is not simple, which is a good thing for us humans, because we can deal with unknown things better than computers. And the other thing is the hype. So I think all know this lady, Elizabeth Holmes. In Forbes front page in 2014, her company raised 700 million, and one time her company was valued at 9 billion, over top of Uber and other companies. Now she's convicted, in jail, because she just wrecked it. The device was not measuring anything. And this always remains a challenge with emerging technologies. So just to summarize in the balance what it is, I think, like all technology, AI is following a hype cycle. Now, for the hype cycle of AI, I think we're at this stage. The early adopters are there, the mass media hype has just begun, and we can see the supply proliferation. Name a everything our AI technology is there for it. We'll soon go the reach, and we're sliding into a trough. As an ChatGPT user, I know the kind of work it can do, the kind of work it cannot do. And now I can read, if I read through something, I know whether it is written by ChatGPT or something or not. Yeah. So, and we are also warning our students not to write everything through ChatGPT. It is easily, we can get the test. We know what is written by ChatGPT or not. But it is there. It will be there to help you out. So we're going through this peak, the trough, and slowly will evolve. And hopefully it will be very quick, not this drawn out. It possibly another 5 years or so. So this is the iron bridge in UK down in Shropshire, Telfordshire. This is the first bridge made of cast iron in 1779. It is a very small bridge, not a big one, but it changed how bridges were made. Since then, the bridge making changed entirely. So possibly we're looking at ChatGPT, we can think, okay, it is a limit technology or something like that. But we're not aware. It will change the things that are going to come. So with this message and this image, I'll finish. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Das. And it was a really interesting and excellent keynote covering all aspects of clinical AI as well as AI in general, which was a surprise to me. You covered AI very well, being from a medicine background. And I thank you for such an excellent keynote. With this, we move to the next section of this event, which is the panel discussion or the fireside chat. And here we have four eminent speakers, and I'm going to introduce them alphabetically. So first, Dr. Arvind Kumar from KTH Sweden. He is a computational neurologist and avid, researcher with multiple publications and patents to his name. And with that, I will hand over to Professor Arvind to introduce himself and his work briefly, and then we can continue. Over to you, Dr. Arvind.
I'm mute. Hi, thanks, Avik. I'm going to share my screen. So I think it's possible to allow me, right? Okay, great. Avik, thank you so much. And Dr. Das, thank you even more for setting up the stage. And this was really excellent, as Avik said. I'm just repeating him. What I'm going to start with is something that was given to me as one of the questions in the preparation phase of this webinar, and also something that Dr. Das mentioned, that at point of care, we have to think about biomarkers. Avik said, I'm a computational neurologist. I'm actually a wannabe computational neurologist. Right now, I would say I'm a computational neuroscientist, and I spend a lot of time thinking about very abstract questions about brain function. But those questions, they actually are guided towards understanding the neural hardware. And by extension, it should actually lead us to think about brain diseases. Since I'm not a medical doctor, I hope I can actually contribute with my understanding of, or not just our understanding of brain theory, how it could help us understand diseases from a more brain dynamics perspective and from information processing perspective. Different diseases fall in these two categories, I think. So Parkinson's disease is a disease of dynamics, epilepsy is like that, but psychiatric disorders perhaps are disorders of information processing. And the hope is that we can complement this pipeline that exists, that you have some symptoms and you look for the causes. We can contribute some new measurements and better data analysis pipelines, which are based on theory, and thereby complement the AI tools. Now, the problem is this. When we start to think about biomarkers of diseases, brain diseases in particular, we have this almost knee-jerk reaction that, hey, there is a behavioral deficit, some disease, I need biomarker. And typically we think of those biomarkers in terms of physical loss of brain tissue, some genetic mutations, some chemical is malfunctioning and so on. And this is a legacy of this Frenchman, Jean-Marie Charcot, who wanted to see this kind of relationship inspired by other diseases. And this program has not made much progress when it comes to brain disorders. And the reason is this layout of the brain. So this is my unpacking of the brain, that normally we see this kind of picture for the brain, but actually Brain is a very, very multi-scale system. You can understand it in terms of microcircuits, macrocircuits, or molecules, neurons, and synapses. Of course, you can find causes and effects at different levels, but we should remember that this range, this is like 12 orders of magnitude. And this kind of jump is almost impossible to fathom, actually. And one secret that we have learned by doing theory about the brain is that the way the brain is structured, or the way it grows and develops, it has this property called degeneracy. That is, same components can give rise to different systems, and same system could be achieved by different combinations of different components. And this is where the problem of biomarkers come in. A gene has been mutated. There are 12 levels at which the brain could compensate or not compensate. And there, for this problem, that of course we want to define diseases with these labels, and at the clinic we would like to define their symptoms, and at point of care we would like to put all varieties of sensors to follow these, record and share and whatnot. These could be typically behavioral symptoms. But the real goal is actually to treat this, and for treating this we need to access the brain's hardware. For that, we need to, I think, go through these brain activity, different levels of networks and so on. But the problem is of degeneracy at every level. So here is our spine task then. So let's say somebody says I have Parkinson's disease. We need to follow these arrows, backtrack them to some of the components. And that's where the search of biomarkers is complicated. Kind of is very surprising that brain almost plays no role in the diagnosis of brain diseases. First is the brain, the behavior, motor symptoms, memory, and so on. And only later, if at all, we go to the biomarkers in terms of some genes, maybe imaging, etc. And I think that's what we should be changing, and that's where AI comes in a big way. Dr. Das already covered a lot of it. I'm just reiterating what he said, that what AI brings us is very powerful tools for classification. If we can translate the problem of diagnosis as a classification problem, great. We can search for parameters in very high dimensional space. So this matrix below I showed you, maybe AI can help there. We can define patterns using supervised learning and search for them. We can search for patterns that have eluded us so far. And we can also make systems that adapt, like based on reinforcement learning. And essentially, we can handle problems that have so far been unsolved with our classical methods. And I'm very, hesitating in writing this, but that's where it is seemingly going, that science is becoming data-driven. That's what people say. But ideally, or under the hood, what it is becoming is equation-free. So perhaps we can understand a system without writing equations. Now, what is easy is collect the data. A very difficult problem lurks behind, that is sharing data. I won't say anything about it. What is also easy to find and define patterns. And a very famous statistician once said that if we have large enough data, we are doomed to succeed. So AI will help us in that, no problems. What is difficult is what to measure, when to measure, and how to measure. What is a right biomarker? Dr. Das showed us this beautiful cartoon about bad data. Part of bad data is not just measurement error. Part of bad data is the actual measurement of the biomarker, actual definition of the biomarker. And then comes how to analyze and so on. And I think these problems are definitely not easy. However, some help could come from our classical modeling efforts, biophysical, biomechanical models of the body and the brain. And eventually, I think we will have to go to patient-specific models. And since this parameter space is huge, I think AI will have to come in a big way. So the way I see this problem is that our classical pipeline is this, that there are patients, we have thought about some biomarkers, clinicians look at them and come up with a diagnostics, prognosis, and treatment plan. But we should complement in two ways with this blue box. We have some AI-based data analysis, but that should interact closely with computational models so that we can define causality. And I think that's where the real magic comes in, I think, with the combination of AI tools and models. Thank you, Avik.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Arvind, for an enlightening introduction and talk into your line of work. With that, we move on to Professor Manjunath from IIT Kharagpur, and I'll pass it over to him to describe his work and introduce himself. Over to you, Professor Manjunath.
Yeah, thank you, Havik. So, I like to share some of the work that we are doing in our laboratory. Uh, Before I talk about the work. So, Dr. Abhi Das has already given us a wide, interaction with the different types of point of care devices. So the main reason or the what is the AI role of AI in these POC devices is mainly to automate the diagnostics, enhance its accuracy of the detection of the diseases, and further it gives us the real time decision support systems. So in this context, mainly the wearable devices are coming, and they are gaining more popularity here. And in this context, I like to take one of the work that we carry out by developing system for post-stroke rehabilitation. So in this prototype, so what we have done is we have developed a a portable hand exoskeletal device. As we know that we have a huge demand for physiotherapy the moment the person acquire the stroke. So by developing these portable hand exoskeletal devices, so the patients can get their rehabilitations done remotely, or they stay at home and get this rehabilitation done without the presence of a physiotherapist at home. And another concept which we have taken in terms of the use of AI in this point of care device is to connect this device to the cloud sources, where the data of these devices are transferred. Data is transmitted in real time, so that the physician can sit wherever he is able to access this data and make sure the patient is able to follow what the regimen that is given for his rehabilitation. So in this context, this is one such device that we have developed, and this product is currently filed for a patent. This involves activating the exoskeletal devices with the contralateral hand, where the other side of the body is unaffected, and the affected hand will be rehabilitated by the normal hand. So this is one such product we are coming up with this work. And lastly, we have more challenges in terms of these AI based point of care applications. The main challenges here is they need to be more accurate in disease diagnostics, and we should have more reduced human error. At the same time, to have an access to the remote places, as well as in low resource settings. So with this, I take back to you, Avik.
Yes, thank you, Professor Manjunath, and all the best for your product. And with this, I'd like to move on to our next panelist, who is Dr. Paramita Kaur Chaudhary from TCS Research. Please take a moment to describe your work and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Vic, and I'm really glad to be here today. Yes. So, my name is Paramita Kaur Chaudhary, and I'm a senior scientist at TCS Research, and I work at the intersection of nanosensing technologies and AI-enabled diagnostics. In our group, we focus on developing point-of-care diagnostic systems, essentially which are compact and non-invasive devices that can detect early markers of disease right where the care is needed. And it can be a clinic and or also a remote health center or even in someone's home. Our work specifically brings together two powerful tools. One is nanosensors that can pick up subtle biochemical signals that uses nanomaterial based sensors and technologies, and AI modeling that can interpret those signals into meaningful clinical insights. For example, we are working on human breath based diagnostics for predicting diabetes or prediabetes, and sweat or saliva based detection platforms for communicable disease screening. So these technologies aim to move diagnostics from the lab to the patient's bedside seamlessly and affordably. To us, AI in healthcare is not just about algorithms or data analytics, it's about embedding intelligence directly into these sensing platforms, making them not just detectors, but as decision making tools. It's this combination that will drive the next leap in personalized and decentralized care. That is what we believe in. And yes, I'm happy to be in this panel discussion today because the future of AI in point of care, it's not just about technological advances, it's about transforming how care is delivered, making it easier, faster, and more human centric. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Paramita, for a very different outlook on AI in point of care and how it can augment sensing. And with that, I would like to invite our last but not the least speaker, Dr. Swada Anand, who is also from TCS Research. So, Swada, please introduce yourself and tell about
Thanks,
your.
Avik. Thanks a lot. So I am working as a principal scientist with life sciences research within TCS. And most of my work involves utilizing a large amount of omics data that we get from multiple perspectives. Like one of it is, of course, finding the biomarkers, which we all have, I think, discussed through this, whatever the talks we have heard, that it is one of the major challenges. And we utilize an integration of multi-omics data to understand what kind of biomarkers can be utilized for a detection of various diseases as well as different manifestations of various diseases, because the very heterogeneity within a disease makes it difficult to find exact markers for a disease. Similarly, we are also involved in designing a lot of ways of being able to capture these biomarkers. So they can be proteins, antibodies, and even generative AI usage for protein design, etc., in order to be able to even get these biomarkers in such a way that they can be analyzed and we can get a proper assessment of these biomarkers also in terms of assay development. So both these aspects we cater to as a part of the life sciences team within TCS. And we are also utilizing the state of the art technologies like CRISPR-Cas, etc., towards detection of various antimicrobial resistant pathogens, as well as even the biomarkers for diseases like cancer and autoimmune disorders. So all those aspects also we look into. So yes, and I think that is the main thing. Why? Because now even when looking at the very specificity of getting these biomarkers is very important when it comes to point of care, and that is why it is very important to look into biomarkers from an omics perspective, so that you can be like very specific into what kind of biomarkers you're looking at. I think that we are, yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Swada. So, with that, we start with the first question to this panel, and it is on. We have talked about how AI has been in the point of care. Dr. Abhijit Das gave a very good hype cycle view of AI and how it will proliferate. But I would like to know from the panelists how you're seeing AI playing a role in the point of care of future. So, if you have to imagine how the point of care will look in the future and how AI will play a part, if you can briefly, everyone can give their views. I would like to start with Professor Manjunath, if you can start, and then we can take it one by one.
Well, as you know, the AI has already started embedding into the medical image acquisitions. So as on today, we have MRI images being, embedded with certain software tools where we can, segment the areas of interest or the region of interest, and that instantly supports the clinician to come to a proper diagnostics. So I'm of the hopeful that in future AI would still give more insight into the clinician, so it can be increased in terms of the diagnostic time and accuracy of the detection. Of course, we need to take care of other aspects in terms of the algorithmic bias and other AI issues. This is where I would expect the AI in the future.
Okay, thank you, Professor Manjunath. So that makes a lot of sense. Medical imaging, a lot of AI has been done on MRI, CT, and other kind of radiological as well as histopathological imaging. So, Dr. Avijit, if you want to share a few words on where do you see AI being in the point of care of future?
Yeah, so I'll just start by saying that point of care is a very vague term, and everything is point of care. So from the home to everything is a point of care. But and everywhere the AI is there. Even not AI, simple algorithmic tool, decision making tools are long existing. Say for our automatic, when you write a prescription, something, there's an alert automatically pops up. If you prescribe two medications simultaneously and they have interaction, it automatically pops up. And also there are other tools like very simple things. Someone's creatinine level going high. So all these are electronic data sets. They create an alert. And also if someone's CRP is going high, they create a sepsis alert. So these things are already there and we are utilizing it. And the other things are coming slowly but and surely. AI is already there, like a patient waiting outside my clinic room with a headache and some symptoms. She has previously they used to Google. Now they're using Chat GPT with form some questions are coming up. So, it is already there and everywhere, and we are going to use it every day. And imaging-based analysis, where AI made its foray. The other thing we're using, surgeons are using a lot of our navigational tools, the guidance tools, especially the neurosurgeons, the orthopedic surgeons using AI live for remodeling the surfaces of the bones and other things they're going to do, what kind of joint positioning they're going to use. Oncologists, they're using oncologists for playing the radiotherapy techniques and everything. So AI is omnipotent, already there. The cardiologists are using a lot. So it is already there, already has reached us.
Thank you, Dr. Avijit. So I think Dr. Swadha, you talked about omics and personalized medicine, and I think that is also a promise of the future that there will be no diseases in the near future. So how
That's
AI
true.
will help in that
Yes.
stem
So,
cell and this kind of
my
omics and
opinion
stuff.
is, although there is still a long journey to, go ahead before we can really get to that point, but understanding really what to look for as a biomarker in point of care, uh, and like whatever we understand, lateral flow assays, etc., as a point of care right now, they of course lack that level of sensitivity or accuracy, but AI can help us really integrate multiple kinds of analytes even at a point of care setting. And I think that is very important when it comes to understanding the disease properly and being able to diagnose any scenario. To add, I feel that at like in many cases, there are many analytes which we don't even know the assays to. But using AI, we can use another analyte to indicate that particular analyte and be able to get some indications on that. So I think that has a lot of scope when it comes to AI or deep learning based models. Plus, of course, I think real time analysis becomes possible when you use AI on these multi modal data. And that can actually help the physician for a decision support scenario, as well as the interventions can be very personalized in that case. And of course, AI can be augmented with things like AR, VR, XR, etc., etc., to provide these personalized interventions. So I feel at different levels of point of care, I think. And then, of course, I think AI is equally important when you look at supply chains. So when we talk of point of care, one of the major factors is you have to take it to the last mile. Otherwise, there is no point in it. And for that, I think supply chain management becomes a critical factor, which also AI plays a very important role into. So I think at every step of point of care, AI can have a very potential role. Of course, as I said, there is still a long journey to proceed before we can reach that point. But let's keep our fingers crossed and see how much of the hype cycle we reach, as Dr. Das says. So let's see how that works, really.
Thank you, Dr. Swadha, for painting the entire, point of care value chain very nicely. Um, Yeah, and I think the other side is the theory side. So I would like to know from Professor Arvind how he sees AI and computational models will, together play role in better treatments for tomorrow.
So yeah, I mean, I think what AI will do is that make early diagnosis possible. We will have these sensors, as we were heard from Pramita and others, that we will have more sensing, and therefore we can like continuously monitor how I'm deviating from my previous average. So early diagnosis, I think, is one thing. Second thing is that it should make diagnosis more quantitative, especially for psychiatric disorders. And finally, I think what will also happen if we are able to monitor data in a careful way over a long period of time, then this regular monitoring will reveal much more fluctuations in the disease conditions. Something that currently we don't take care of much, right? Because you don't get appointments and so on. So if you can monitor a patient regularly, it reveals much more about the disease dynamics. Now, for the theory side, I think somebody said it, and maybe it's not a very nice sentence, but a disease is also an experiment done by nature. It reveals something about the system. So I think by monitoring it like this, we will learn much more about the system, and hopefully we will have better, more patient-specific models from this.
That's an interesting thought, definitely, Professor Arvind. And because you talk so much about sensing and monitoring, we'd like to know from Paramita how she sees that AI will enhance the sensing of future or for point of care.
Sure. So, in our work with non-invasive volatile organic compound nanosensors, AI is proving to be the real game changer. And these sensors that pick up very subtle signatures in human breath, which has these volatile organic compounds, which are biomarkers of different diseases, and they are these VOCs, these volatile organic compounds. They are all overlapping across many diseases. Now that's a problem because my sensor, if we create a nanosensor which is extremely highly sensitive, it will sense everything. It will pick up every possible signal. Now, to discern the contribution of each of these VOCs, like which disease actually is contributing to what the symptoms that I'm facing, to this, including this selectivity or specificity, AI comes to the respite. So it cuts through the complexity or the noisy data across, let's say, available across variables like individual, gender, BMI, demographic conditions. And so across all, if I have a huge metadata, AI helps us cut through that complexity. And then it enables to detect patterns that are almost invisible to conventional analysis. And this allows us to predict conditions like prediabetes, which if we can detect much earlier than once we have the diabetes, anyway, we have to take medication. But for example, if we can detect the disease much earlier before the symptoms manifest, then they can actually be, by doing lifestyle changes, we can avoid actually developing that disease into a full-fledged condition. So this is where AI, I think, really augments sensing, and it doesn't just analyze the data, it enhances the specificity and reliability what the sensors can tell us. And in doing so, it disrupts the traditional diagnostics, by shifting the model from invasive lab based tests to real time non-invasive patient friendly screening devices. And here at TCS we use two terms. One is AI for sensing, which I just described, and there is also sensing for this AI, as Dr. Abhijit said, that garbage in is garbage out. So, in order to have a very good algorithms developed around these sensor data, the sensor data itself, to begin with, must be extremely good quality. So, both they are both complementary to each other, AI for sensing and sensing for AI. So this is a model that we are seeing that it's augmenting and disrupting the sensing applications for point of care.
Thank you, Dr. Paramita. And I think Dr. Avijit has something to say. He has hands up. So if you want to go ahead.
You know, I'll just like to add, this is a very interesting discussion we are having. I'll just like to add to what Professor Arvind, Paramita, and Dr. Sada has told us. So we have to look how we humans make decisions. We have our own cognitive biases through which we make decisions. That has been honed through evolution and everything. AI has no such biases. So AI possibly will teach us how to look at data beyond we have looked so far. I'll just give only one example. So when we understood the heliocentric, we moved away from our Earth-centric to the heliocentric theory of the universe. It's a major development in the human scientific revolution and everything. People have long had the idea and collected data. The Indian astronomers did it, the Chinese astronomer more focusedly did it, but it was only achieved in Europe because it brought together 3 or 4 things together. First, the concept, Copernicus, then Tycho Brahe came, collected his data set, extensive data set, collected over 20 years of the recession of planets and everything, and collected the data set. Then Johannes Kepler built his mathematical model to prove everything together. So we need this kind of thinking, otherwise, which Professor Arvind attributed to, correlation is not enough. We need some hypothesis-driven everything and some counterfactuals, which we do in clinical medicine, counterfactuality. So far, our AI has not built on counterfactual. We are just doing at correlational level. Unless we build in counterfactuality to our decision-making, how we human do it, making sense of things are very difficult. So these are the 2 or 3 things need to come before AI and big data and everything is still will remain at whatever kind of we know, it will fill up our gaps. But whenever we start doing it, possibly we'll see the real revolution, something we have not known. Like the moment, it will be kind of a moment when Leeuwenhoek discovered the microscope and we saw microbes. Before that, we attributed disease to everything. Unless we had the idea of microbes, we had no idea how things are going to do, why people are going to die due to tuberculosis or malaria. Only when we knew microbes, we can think about those things. So this is kind of paradigm shift in our thinking, in our cognitive biases are going to happen possibly very soon, and we're going to see the world in a new way.
Of course. Thank you, Dr. Vijit, for touching upon 2 very interesting topics. And I think I'll come to you, Professor Arvind. So I just wanted to say that I think you have touched upon the concept of causal and explainable AI, as well as, the concept of sensing, which can enhance our understanding of biology itself, right? Like microbes you find tomorrow, you may find some new biomarkers that we don't know of using some sensors that are not built yet. So both are very interesting topics, and we'll definitely come to them. I'll go to Professor Arvind. He had his, if you have
I just wanted to add something that Dr. Das mentioned, that AI doesn't have bias. Of course, it has bias, but we are aware of it. I think that's perhaps the bigger difference, and we are in a situation to correct those biases. And I mean, relating it to Tycho Brahe is very interesting, because I think Tycho Brahe is also, or Kepler actually, is really pretty much data fitting, but it's Newton after that, right? Which brings in a theory. And I think that's what perhaps is lacking. And being a very pessimistic person, maybe I have a neurological disorder of pessimism, but I feel like this notion of degeneracy that we are discovering when we are thinking of complex system, I think that is a very big roadblock. With the AI, what we are doing is like, we don't have a solution for the 3-body problem, but we are able to predict it, right? I think this is really where AI comes in as a very, very powerful hack. I don't think it's the answer. It's just something in between that we have to live with until we find a good solution to the degeneracy problem.
No, I completely agree. So the main issue is that we have to understand that the world is an emergent system. When new systems evolve, old rules doesn't work. So here where the AI dependent on pattern matching. So the old rules will not work in an emergent system. That's where new thinking and other thing will come. So where the AI fails at this moment. Yeah, I completely agree. So we are possibly going very much deep into AI philosophy and everything.
But Dr. Das, I wanted to raise one point. Like you mentioned about decision making, and that reminded me, like one thing that separates me searching on the internet and a doctor doing a diagnosis is the differential diagnosis. So how do you visualize that? Because now we have so many data being recorded, we are basically going to create hypochondriacs, right?
Yeah,
So
no,
how do you build those things in ChatGPT-like systems where you can actually go through a differential diagnosis?
this is a very important issue because the area, my subspecialty is called functional neurological disorder, previously known as hysteria, where people are looking at there's a lot of psychological comorbidities developing physical symptoms with or without it. So this is a very big problem. So we are not talking about expert-like thinking versus data-driven thinking. So what expert-like thinkers do, it has been well known that we use counterfactuals. So when you come to a neurologist, someone, we do a lot of heuristic thinking or counterfactuals, which we rule out a group of decision tree from the trunk. We do not go that line. So if you are someone at young age coming to me saying, I'm developing memory loss, do I have dementia? Do I have Alzheimer's? 30 for me? No, you are anxious. That's why you're having it. Very, very likely that is the true. So first, my counterfactual is the age and cutoff. I'm ruling that out. That's how we think. Our heuristic-based, pattern matching-based clinical thinking is more like that. AI doesn't do it, but we need to put kind of evidence. All evidence has its weight, so we need to put what we call kind of a Bayesian thinking into AI. So Bayesian weightage and prior and posterior probability of when you put in, because our clinical thinking a lot of Bayesian. If I see someone having a chest pain, say 60 years of age, I will think about heart attack. Now, if I see someone as 20 years of age, I'll think of stomach pain, acidity gas, or something else. If, on the other hand, if I have the 23-year-old has a history of cocaine, now coming with a chest pain, I will also think of heart attack because my weightage has changed now because of the history, because of the prior and the posterior will change. So this is how our clinical decision making switches from one aspect to the other, depending on the weightage and depending on the data set. AI so far deals all the data is equivalent. Not all data are equivalent. That is the main thing AI needs to learn.
Yeah, so let me give my input here that in some instances we always try to once the algorithm is developed, we always go back to the clinical inputs and make sure that the algorithm that it is trying to classify holds good with the clinical decision. So we always make sure that the AI, we are not exactly entirely taking the bias of the algorithm or the AI procedures. Rather, we cross-check or verify with the clinical input, saying that this particular diagnosis done by the AI is correlated with the clinical outcomes. So that's where I would say that bias can be minimized, and we can come up with a robust system where it helps in future diagnosis.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Manjunath, for bringing up this important point. And definitely, I agree with Professor Arvind and Dr. Avijit that AI has this issue of being low specificity, high sensitivity, right? So often we see that screening systems for low prevalence diseases have very high sensitivity but very poor specificity, and essentially sending everybody into the clinical testing because of lack of Bayesian thinking. Because the Bayesian thinking tells you that that uh, the probability of having that disease is actually low, given that the prevalence is very low, right, in that demography, that age, that location. So one important step in improving upon such Bayesian trees or models of differential diagnosis is what we call multimodal, which means use more than one type of data. And I would like to pose this question to both Dr. Swada and Dr. Paramita, how they see their methods complementing each other, because they look at very different aspects of the same disease. So over to you, Dr. Swada, if you want to start.
Okay, so so basically, yes, as Paramita mentioned, that looking at various sensing modalities for a particular disease, let's take an example of any disease and look at it. Let's say maybe diabetes is what she's talking about. So even in diabetes, as I mentioned, every patient is heterogeneous. You will get different kind of molecular markers also for each patient. And using a combination of that and utilizing, of course, the deep learning models, which can help to integrate such a diverse data, there can be more robust markers which can be brought in place. And I believe that is the main advantage of utility, which is something I mentioned earlier also. And a lot of this data might actually complement each other. Like, for example, let's say a sensing outcome can indicate the presence of a particular metabolite by just using very simple home sensors, and vice versa also. So, I mean, even in certain cardiac scenarios, people have just looked at certain metabolites and been able to understand if there are any cardiac issues there. So, basically, bringing in the molecular as well as the overall sensing mechanisms together and trying to get an overall picture, I think would give a more robust model than looking at one aspect, as you also mentioned, Dr. Abhay. So I believe that is where the two sides can complement each other, as you asked. So, Paramita, over to you.
Yes. Absolutely, Swada, I completely agree that even for one particular disease, if we are looking at different modalities, it would bring out the much essential question of the specificity, whether exactly what is the contributing reason. As we also have a question in the chat, actually, that is for Abhik, whether the point of network of point of care devices talking to each other, whether it can help improve the care using collaborative AI. So I think that's also in the similar direction, that bringing in multimodality or more than one biomarker from different aspects concerning the same disease or different symptoms but concerning a same disease, that can definitely augment and
Yeah.
enhance the specificity. Yeah,
Basically,
that's
bringing IoT to healthcare is, I think, what that I also just
yes,
noticed the question. So I think bringing IoT to the
yes,
healthcare is what I think the question really is.
Yes.
yes,
So I think Professor Manjunath already has shown us how to bring IoT to healthcare by designing a stroke device. So I would like to know his views about this question asked by the audience, that how collaborative AI between various devices can actually help in improving the AI-based diagnosis or prevention or treatment.
Yes, I mean this particular task we initiated with the collaboration from the hospital society, or the team of neurologists and team of orthopedic surgeons. So they pose a threat that we are not having enough physiotherapists at hand, and they need to travel to the remote locations also. So why not we develop this portable device so that this can be deployed in a rural setup, or even in the home care setup, and integrate the device with the cloud, so that we can monitor in real time whether the those stroke patients are able to do the specific task that is defined to them, is being monitored in a real time. So this concept we evaluated with few of the patients, and that's how the concept evolved. And obviously the team work leads to the success of any of these POC, or any type of medical devices. I strongly agree that team plays a role here.
Sure. Thank you, Professor Manjunath. So I think we have cut across a lot of aspects of AI. So while AI is a great promise, we have also seen what evil it can be. So one is bias, definitely. The other is, specificity. One is, like Dr. Avijit also showed, that it was biased towards certain gender, certain race, or these kind of biases are there. Data bias is there. If your data is bad, your AI will be bad. The lack of causality is there. It's still black boxes, right? We don't know why it is taking a decision that it is taking. And often AI also has, what Professor Manjunath said, accessibility issues, right? So meaning in a remote location, it's very hard to set up a cloud and get that connectivity and get that infrastructure to actually have every poor man, or woman access AI in a way that we get in urban settings or in developed countries. So All these touch upon the aspect of responsible AI, which means that it is accessible, it's causal, it's free of biases and all. So my last question would be that how you think that responsible AI can be brought into the world of care, how we can get rid of these perils that we see today. And I would like to start again with Dr. Abhijit, if you want to, and then I would request everyone to go in that order. So, Dr. Abhijit, please.
I think this is a very important area. The first thing I would like to see the barrier of English being broken down. At this moment, the AI is driven by English language. We need AI in other languages. I think there's an initiative now starting with one of the AI company they're developing in the Indian languages and some Arabic and other things. First, these things need to go. The whole AI bias. If you ever have you ever tried to translate something from English to any language like Bengali or Hindi? It's still very horrible. It is better than Google Translate, but still very, very horrible. The way it translates between other European languages, dealing with Indian languages is still horrible. Simple thing. So, and also the knowledge base is very much skewed towards the European data set and other things. So hopefully the other larger AI companies are coming out, but again, they geographically look at something. So it was recently pointed out to one of my colleagues that because these Facebook games, they become suddenly viral. They upload your image and you get your data thrown out and analyzed. They're actually using your own data to train their software. So one suddenly pointed out, look, the images are coming out somewhat more like some more of India's neighboring country. Why so? I told, okay, that's the company is based out of there, and they have trained the data set of their own population. That's why you're getting the facial features of the neighboring country. It happened recently in one of the Facebook memes. So people are uploading their data, getting their images of their future self, something like that. Yeah, so there are the biases, and these things need to happen. The other thing I'd like to see that built into AI to reduce the biases, kind of what I call OpenAI. At this moment, it's still a black box. We really do not know why it is doing something, why it is making stupid decisions. The other thing for medical AI, particularly important, we have not discussed it, is hallucination. AI has a tendency to hallucinate. So this will be catastrophic in medical situations. And this is something need to be safeguarded and moved into before further adoption of AI in medical technology. For me, this is a big red flag for AI.
Yeah, Professor Arvind, thank you, Dr. Abhijit, for your views. And Professor Arvind, if you can go next, please. You're talking on mute, probably.
Oh yeah, sorry. So there are several things that I can raise, but in the interest of time, what I think we definitely need is that we should break the monopoly on AI. We need alternative opinions. There's no other way to get around this data bias. This will always be the case. Because there are so many restrictions in data sharing, data access, data records. So only way we can make progress is to have alternative opinions. You should not have just one AI model where you can go to, the way we can seek counter opinion from other doctors. I think that's the only way to build trust in this. And Abhik, I just want to put one more phrase for you to discuss maybe later, which is like a contribution or like how AI could help improve quality of life of patients, not just measuring how sick they are.
Yes, true.
Okay, yeah, that's all that I want to say. Multiple AI models.
That's an interesting thought, Professor Arvind. And I would like to go next to Professor Manjunath to get his views on this topic.
Well, as you know, the challenges are there are many challenges are there until we arrive at a specific AI models which can be called as a gold standard, which can be used in in real world applications. So the first challenge I would see is a need for the external validation of the algorithms that we come up with. So obviously, the moment algorithm is developed, make sure that it is always validated externally and free of errors in its final diagnosis. And as Dr. Abhijit also touched upon during his presentation, that the privacy part of the system and the data security, this is a major concern. With another point is the lack of standardization of the algorithms and AI system for disease diagnosis and the decision support system that we arrive at. And we need to also standardize the protocols uh, by defining the ethical standards of AI, or I would call AI ethics. So we need to have these standards followed, so that we can have a most reliable AI system. And of course, as Dr. Arvind has already pointed out, so we need not have to bank on one AI module, but we need to have multiple modules so that one can choose these modules. And when I talk about standardization of the devices of point of care, so nowadays we have many such point of care devices, but of course their standardization and their reliability is not tested. And people are using the pulse oximeter, but we still not have a standard module where we can say that it is. Of course, today in some of the clinics, they started using the automatic blood pressure monitor to some extent. Uh, this standardization is very crucial and important when the device really come to the end users. So these are all the challenges that we have. Hope we will achieve one at a time and arrive at the final destiny.
Absolutely. I think this was one of point that was not discussed at length, is data and device interoperability and how siloed the operations are within healthcare entities. That's a real food for thought and a real concern for the future. With that, I would get to our device expert, Dr. Paramita. What do you think about standardization or AI as such? How it will improve the devices of future?
Sure. Yes. So the risks are definitely real, and they can slow down the adoption, and particularly in the settings where the decisions directly impact patient lives. So the way forward has to be responsible AI design and standardization, which needs to be needs to be implemented at a much strategic level. Apart from that, I also think that the models, two things. One has to be, the model has to be trained on diverse data set. The more diverse the better, and more transparent models need to be created. And so one is data diversity, I would say, the to make the models more and more robust. And second is that of course clinical validation comes along with it, and for each model validation. But also along with it, the second thing is the multimodality again, to make the system fail proof. I think to make it more foolproof, that if one model fails, there is another to catch. I mean, so at least, so first the data to train has to be wide, and then multimodal the inclusion of network of POC devices or modeling that can actually make it more robust.
Thank you, Dr. Parmita. So, Dr. Swada, over to you and your
Yeah.
views on the topic.
I have two, three things to say here. So, one is we have been discussing on the bias in the data for now. And I believe that when we are dealing with patient data, one bias is, of course, the bias that is created because of the way the data is collected. There could be, gender based or racial biases there. The other bias, I think, when it comes to patients' data is that, as I have mentioned earlier also, that a same disease might manifest in different ways in different people. So if you have a set of people which have a particular marker for a disease, you will only be able to pick that when you create a point of care strategy for that, whether we are looking at a wearable sensor scenario or a molecular sensing scenario. So Another diversity when it comes to the data set would be if you are able to capture the different ways a disease manifests. And I think that is a very big challenge, because how the patient footfall is in a particular hospital where you're collecting samples from alone becomes a challenge in this case. But unless we capture that, we will never be able to diagnose every patient which is coming with a particular disease. uh, unless that data on which that model is trained, I mean, the model at least knows that, okay, these are the kind of combinations I will see, then only I'll know that a particular disease is there. So the very training, if it is lacking in a particular type of people, so basically stratification is what I'm talking about, that aspect we cannot capture. The other thing we kept on discussing also was that basically, normally, in a point of care scenario, when we use AI, etc., we think of connecting it to cloud. And as you also mentioned, Dr. Avik, that every place we won't be able to do that, because we are looking at remote areas, etc., also when we talk of point of care. So I think that is also one of the attempts being made, and yes, it is in infancy right now. But people are trying to create tiny language models, tiny bird, tiny LLMs, etc., for different usage. So even for imaging analytics, people are using zero shot or one shot kind of smaller models, and I think that is very much necessary, and including distributed learning for that matter, so that in principle the aim is to be able to use these models on mobile devices. It is a long way to go, but if that happens, I think even the sustainability problems can be handled, because we very well know these machines generate a lot of heat, they generate a lot of e-waste, etc. So those kind of things can also be looked into when we look at smaller models which can be used on mobile devices. And in many cases, they actually work comparably to the larger models. And that has been seen in various studies. But yes, from bench to bedside, there is still a long way to go. We all know that. So that we have to wait for. Yes. So, yeah.
That's very, very true. We have a long way to go, and as few of people believe, the future of ML is tiny. So you also touched upon it, like going tiny is probably the big way forward. Um, so one final remark from my side, I would leave everybody with that thought, is that what do you think? If you can quickly cover, I know the time is very less. 1 minute, if everybody can cover, or 30 seconds. What do you think are some of the features of an AI model which needs to be deployed at the point of care? We discussed this at length, but just summarizing, if everyone can just summarize in 1 or 2 sentences, that how do you want an AI model to be able to deploy in a point of care? I'll start with the clinician, Dr. Avijit, if you can begin the discussion.
Yeah, I think this needs a separate day to discuss. Yeah, so I'll just summarize, because decision making is always multi-level. And as Dr. Manjunath and Professor Arvind pointed out, we need multiple AI models or possibly competing among themselves to provide a decision. And we need small models. The one thing I'll just touch upon is that what we call state collapse or space collapse, which Swadha pointed out earlier. It may not be necessary. You look at everything data, all big data together, and identify something. Just by looking at someone walking, we clinician can diagnose whether he has dementia or not. So it is actually a space collapse. We provide all the complexity, collapse into a single dimension, and get the diagnosis. So possibly in future in AI will help us this collapse all these latent spaces together to give up a single or something we really do not know so far. This is something I hope.
That's a great view. And Professor Arvind, quickly, if you can.
I think continuous monitoring and thereby finding patterns of like early diagnosis, basically. That's what I would be interested in.
Sure. Yeah. So Professor Manjunath, if you can also summarize.
So from my side, if I would say that we can think of using the edge AI system, so that even in the remote, we are talking about remote access, and also the challenges with the network availability and data availability in the remote locations. So if we can think of an edge AI based devices where the device without any other assistance, it can run the AI module that is being developed, and it can run within the system and give you the diagnosis at the last location. So maybe this is what I would expect at the end.
Great. Great. And Paramita, quickly, if you can also express
Yes,
your views.
sure. Sure. So, as I see, I see AI developing as a means to make diagnostics more accessible, of course, non-invasive and real-time. So that this convergence will truly personalize care, and that will bring, say, the platforms for not only detection but also interpreting health signals instantly.
Great. And closing remarks, Dr. Swada.
Yeah. So I think I would resonate some of the opinions which have already been given. That one thing is, of course, point of care should be accessible even in the remotest of areas, and whatever measures need to be taken, like one I just spoke about, that if we can make these apps available within the mobile devices without any cloud connects, etc. Secondly, I feel that when it comes to remote areas, there are social considerations too. So I think awareness becomes a big issue. So, I mean, people will not use them, they will, and their explainable AI also plays a role. If they understand why are they being given a particular suggestion, they will believe in it more. And yes, for real-time analytics, of course, you need to have something which is easily processed. So again, we come back to the same story. So I think at the end of the day, if you're able to facilitate that, then whether remote or urban settings, in principle, point of care will function. So maybe looking at it from that perspective is very important, a broader perspective to provide accessibility to all, equity of healthcare, basically.
Sure. Thank you, all the speakers. This has been a great session, very engaging, very informative as well. And I think we converged to a view that AI needs to be, tiny, it needs to be causal, it needs to be responsible, and all these great features has to be there. And then we can see the AI-powered point of care of tomorrow, of the future. So with that, I would like to thank all the speakers for being there, taking out their time and making this session so great. And with that, I thank and I say goodbye and good night to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you,
Pleasure.
everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Nice discussion.
Bye.